You can set up.
Go and remind me to hit record. All right. I've been forgetting to hit record on this one.
It says live.
Hi, and
Hello.
welcome to More Than Mindset Live. Our guest today is Danielle Perrodin. Danielle is a functional pharmacist and integrative life coach. And we are going to talk about, tell me, Danielle, I love putting you guys on the spot. It's like,
I love
I
when
want
you
to
do
spell
that.
it out, and then I'm like, yeah, let's just make it a little interesting. We're just going to have a chat today, and we are going to talk about how to support yourself through this crisis on many different levels. So Danielle has some really good stuff to share with you. I'm going to ask her a few questions, and basically, I'm just going to give her the floor and let her talk about what she is the expert in.
So today we're going to be talking about fear and how that is related with the coronavirus and your immune system, and just exactly what you can do to, like you said, support yourself and take care of yourself in this time of massive fear and worry and just the pandemic.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in getting this conversation out because we are seeing now that the results from the fear with the fight or flight that it's putting the
Mhm.
bodies in is actually causing more damage than anything else. And I thought this would be like a perfect time to have this conversation. It's something that we talk about in our More Than Mindset community already, and that
Mhm.
Danielle and I have shared multiple times. We've been working together for a while through the Integrative Coach program, and this is something that we keep coming back to, that it's like we hear it, but then we don't really understand it like tangibly. And so I wanted like to break it down into a very simple way to explain. And those are here live. You're welcome to ask questions in the Q&A, and we will answer them as we wind down the conversation. We'll use it to guide us. So if there's at any point you have questions, like I'm not sure what she's talking about, or could you explain that more? It's something I've always heard, but it was in these really big terms I didn't understand. Anything like that, then we are happy to dial it down and explain it in a really simple way.
Yes, any questions, y'all put it in the chat. So before I get too much into like the technical stuff, I just want to say how much being introduced to this work before the pandemic has just been very supportive of myself and for my family, because like, rest of the world, everyone is just kind of freaking out a little bit. And, I did as well when I first, I guess like the first few weeks of it really had me kind of spinning in my own stuff. But I guess the difference, having done this work, is that I was kind of aware and I could see myself going through the different stages. And I saw someone post about like the different stages of grief, and it is very similar to that. It's like really like grief of our old normal way of living.
Grief of
Um,
knowing.
and so there's a lot of places that the fear comes in. So the fear, of course, is, am I going to die? Is a loved one going to get sick and die? But also the fear also comes in from just not being able to predict your future. Throws you into this whole whirlwind, because we feel very safe as human beings when we can predict where we're getting our food, where's our shelter. A lot of this goes back to the caveman days. Like we've evolved, but our brains really haven't evolved that much. And so we're having to figure out how to stay alive, how to stay healthy in this new way of being, I guess. So back in the old days, you didn't know where your shelter was going to come from. You didn't know where the food was going to come from. You didn't know if you'd be chased by a lion. But we don't have that kind of stress anymore. Now we have stress from work or from our boss or from, the kids, or, whatever the stress is coming from. Um, and so we never really get out of it. So stress was really meant to be short term. So the way our bodies are built, we have two systems that they don't run together. They run either one or the other. So you have the survival mode, which is your sympathetic mode. It's the fight or flight. So most of your blood flow is going to go to away from your organs and to your muscles. So your arms and your legs, so that you can either get ready to fight to save your life or to run away. and also maybe to hide. But it's, it's for you to go and take action. And that, it'll save your life if you have something that is acutely threatening you, but it's not meant to be in a situation where day in, day out, you're in fear, you're in stress. There's a lot of chemical responses that go on with that. So you have the cortisol hormone that's released, and it's a chemical. It causes things to go on in your body, and it has a lot of detriment if it's constantly in your body. And what I'm learning just from like watching myself actually is that it's pretty addictive.
Yes.
It could be addictive, and it's like so one of my addictions that I have not given up is coffee. And I think it's pretty similar to the fear. Just like the coffee, when you get that first cup of coffee in the morning, the fear is, it gives you that jolt of energy. And your body's used to it and it craves it. If that's the normal chemical environment that your cells are in, like it craves that. So whenever you start to come down and start to try and clear your mind, you might find that you're going to watch the news more. It just, you don't know why. You fool yourself and say that it's because I want to be updated, stay up to date, right? But we can stay up to date other ways.
Yeah, the brain's just like, I need to see as much as I can so that I can keep us protected. If we know everything, then we can make a plan, right? And
we can make a plan and we can
addiction.
predict the future. I feel safer. But then what's happening really is that you keep getting that jolt. You keep seeing how many people are dying, how many people are getting sick. And just
to confirm that I need to be afraid, right?
Yes. And to get that chemical response in your body, and you're getting prepared to fight. But the funny thing is that the government keeps saying that it's this unseen enemy. But if you stay in that chronic stress, you're not preparing to fight that type of enemy. You're actually depleting the energy needed for your immune system. So I said that you have two systems. One is the survival, fight or flight, and it's the sympathetic. The other system is the creation. So it's where you're creative. It's where it's called the parasympathetic nervous system. It's, rest and recover. It's where you heal. And so you also need a lot of energy for your immune system. It takes a lot of work. If you think about like when you have the flu, when you have a cold, you get really tired, you get really exhausted. And it's because your body is putting a lot of energy. Think about it when you run a fever. There's a lot of energy put into to fight, to release all of those cells, to find the virus, attack the virus. It just takes a lot out of you. And so here's the deal. So if you're using all of that energy to stay in stress and fear, there's no energy for your immune system, or it's depleted. There's less. And so that's why we really, really, really have to be intentional. And I have to say, like, I'm the first one to be guilty. And when I say that it's addictive, so the release of chemicals in your body cause an emotion, right? And so the emotion is addictive. And so, and it's also, it leaves this memory in your body. So I remember for 9/11, like everybody can remember where they were when 9/11 happened, right? Like,
the moment. I know exactly where I
was.
was.
The moment where you were. Like my husband knows, he was in the middle of Walmart in the TV aisle.
Yep.
And so he saw that. I was in a computer lab. I was studying pharmacy, and some frantic woman came in the computer lab and told us students that America was under attack and planes were running into the building, and it was just so traumatic. And so we all went to the student union and we were all gathered watching. Like, I'll never forget that. But then after that, I kept turning on the news. I kept turning on the news day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. And ever since then, I kept that as my morning routine. So like I would wake up, get my jolt of coffee, get my jolt of news, think that I'm doing a good thing, go to work. And no wonder I was like so like irritable and just tired by 2:00. And what's so funny, Kim, is that whenever I started doing this work, I started doing the inner work to meditate and get out of that fight or flight system. I had so much energy all of a sudden. And it just dumbfounded me at first. I was like, where did all this energy come from? Because before I didn't have energy to exercise. I didn't have energy to do schoolwork, the kids. I didn't have energy to do the housework. And then all of a sudden I just had like this large amount of reserve of energy. And I didn't understand. I didn't take the time to really get it, that those thoughts were all eating up my energy physically. And so the same thing is going on with your immune system. Like you're eating up your energy anytime you're living in the past or living in the future. And that's why we have to show people that they can take it back to support themselves and live in the now, even though it is scary. Like I'm scared. I'm worried, I have loved ones that could possibly get sick, and,
it's about being
scary.
able to dance in the shadow of the now, dance in the worry. Like, yeah, I'm worried and I see it. And we become the watcher of the worry. Like, it's like, oh, that could happen. Oh, maybe so. And then also noticing, like you're saying with the 911, being glued to the TV. I remember the moment Princess Diane, like it was 1:00 in the morning. I was waiting for my kids to come home from being out. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember what my furniture looked like in the living room. And I was just like glued to it exactly the same way that I was now. And you kept seeing the car hit the side of the, underneath that tunnel. It was like that same vision as the plane going into the buildings. And it's the same thing when we hear the ding of our phone, the text, or like these notifications on Facebook or on our cell phones. It's that same.
It's so just that jolt, and it's addictive, and you find yourself, buffering. You find yourself buffering with food or with lots of unhealthy things. But for me, even though I know that I'm doing it, it's really important whenever I'm aware of it. So if, I can find myself going to the pantry, turning on the news, whatever that buffer is, or scrolling through social media to kind of numb the anxiety, whenever I can become aware of it and know, okay, so that's the conditioned body, that's the subconscious that is doing that. And so it's like, that's not even me doing that, choosing to do it. So then as soon as I become aware of it, I feel so much better. Yeah, I could just breathe. And then I can consciously ask myself, do I still want to go and eat the sugary or salty snacks, or do I want to put on the news, being fully aware of what I'm doing, or do I want to make a different choice?
Yeah.
And, and for the first week, I just wanted to rest, lay on the couch,
freak out a little bit. We kind of wanted to be in the freak out. Like, it's like when someone passes, you kind of want to be in the grief. Like, you don't really want to get up and go exercise when someone you love just passed away. You want to be in that. That's the human experience, all of the emotions. We tend to think that we should only want to feel good, right? But it's really, how can we experience all of it and still be in control? Right.
And the key is being in control, and sometimes you're not in control. Sometimes you tell yourself, I'm not going to turn on the news, and you find yourself, you're just automatically doing it. And if you resist that, then it gets even worse, because now you have judgment layer on top of it, that you're doing it, knowing that you're doing it. So the key is just giving yourself grace. And that's what I do with myself. I just allow myself, I'm just like really gentle with myself,
allowing the emotion rather than resisting it. Because when we resist it, we start looking for the excuse. We start blaming ourselves or someone else. And then that just keeps the story going. And, that's like in the punchline approach, presence is always the first step, which is exactly what you just said, is recognizing that these sensations are, I'll say, oozing through the body. But it's like really you have a thought, and then there's a download of chemical. That's our feelings. That's our emotions. That's where that comes from, and when we're constantly thinking like we're unsafe, how many people have died? What's the statistics? Our brain can only do one thing at a time. So it's looking for the danger. It's not looking for the survival rate. It's only looking
Right.
for what it's thinking of in that moment, which is, I am not safe.
And
So
it's
if you
very
can kind of,
selfish. It's always
yeah, if you can
looking,
kind
what
of
does it
unpack
mean
it.
for me? And it's trying to figure out and just scan to see what is the importance for me? How is this going to affect me? And so layer on top of, so you're not just worried about the death, but now you're worried about the economy. You're worried about your job. And the way that I know that it's not, each of our own situations is because we're all in different situations, but yet we all have the same panic and fear. So, there's the mom who is single, who, is a hairstylist, who can't go to work because she's non-essential, and she's at home feeling, scared to death. How is she going to feed her child, wishing that she could go to work? And then on the other side of it, I see the healthcare workers who wish they could stay home with their kids and be safe.
Right.
And so there's always that comparison, first of all, that someone else has a better situation than you. And that puts more fear and stress into your body. So that's really important, that you acknowledge where you are and have purpose where you are.
Yeah. And I think even seeing, like, for those who have guilt, that it's not so bad. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my life's kind of the same. Like, because we've already had, we've already had changes in our community. I was riding my bike day before yesterday and just kind of videoing as I was going. And I was like, it was all these closed businesses
Mm.
who my CPA and I have this kind of running theme about, we live in a rural area, so we are 10 to 50 years behind. That's what we argue about. I say 10, he says 50. And so we talk about this like on a regular basis. And I called him, I was like, oh my God, you have to hear what I just figured out. I was like, we're not behind. We're actually ahead, because we've already experienced the loss in a rural area when they put the interstate, when they consolidated the schools. All of these businesses closed. They were non-essential. They didn't make it. Exactly what the rest of the world is experiencing in the cities or in the bigger areas right now. We've already experienced it, and we're on the other side of it, because my business changed. I went from having a high school next door where I had all of the teachers and the high school students who were tanning and doing their nails and exercising. And when they consolidated the school and I ended up with an elementary school, there were no more clients. So my business changed. It went on. I started doing yoga, started doing coaching. Does that make sense? And so
Yes.
then
So
there
you
was,
had to evolve. And
yes,
so, because the big thing is that no one wants to change. Like, it
right.
had to get this bad for society to change. A lot of the systems were already broken.
That's right.
First of all, the fact that there wasn't enough PPE available in this rich country. And someone in one of my pharmacy groups had shared a study, and I had seen it a while back, and it was written, I want to say, in 2007, which it talked about the horseshoe bat and SARS, and that there was a risk for this. So if we knew there was a risk for this 13 years ago, you would think we would have plenty of ventilators. We would have plenty of PPE for, the whole United States, especially the healthcare workers, and you would just have them ready to go, to be shipped out at any moment. But the fact of the matter is, hundreds of hospitals have been shut down before this. And so even though this looks like the cause of everything, but it really is a symptom.
Yeah.
It's a symptom of how everything has gotten so bad already.
It's
And
like the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's that, it's
and
kind of like
yeah, it's
relationships that are not working, and we just keep holding and keep holding and keep holding. We're waiting for that. All right, buddy, now that's it.
yeah.
It's like that moment where everything crumbles. We just kind of hold it together by our fingertips or by our teeth.
The school systems, are, basically broken, as far as parents expect kids to raise the school to raise their kids. A lot of times
the government's
they don't have
responsible for our
time. That
health.
mom and dad are
No.
both working. They're going to preschool, after school, summer, like my kids went to
Grandma's on the
summer
weekends.
camp every summer. So I'm so thankful that they are old enough to, take care of themselves now, because they actually feel like this is great because they finally get like a summer where they don't have to like wake up and us ship them out to summer camp because we need someone to take care of them while we go work.
Well, I also saw too, like with my grandchildren, is they're in sports all the time, all of the
Mhm.
time. There's something year long. Sometimes they're on 2 and 3 different teams, and so they're always in. So they're at school all day. They're in sports all evening. I can't even imagine they're like if that's what's happening with their nervous system because they never stop.
Well,
And
I
then
tell
we
you
have the
what, the
crisis like this,
kids,
and that's why it's hitting so hard. Is because the immune systems are so shabby that
mhm.
they're not able to fight off a virus.
Right. And so as I study more and more into this, so you have the deal with the energy. So you have the energy that is diverted, but you also have, so all of these molecules, they're protein. And so when you have this chemical, this cortisol, this stress that's in your environment this whole time, um, my kids might be getting a
It's
little
okay.
loud.
We're
I'll tell them.
videoing. I mean, we're
We're
recording this
videoing. The kids are
live
home.
during.
It's,
Yeah.
quarantine time. So,
Yeah.
hey, can you guys be quiet a little bit, please? Okay. And so, yeah, so what I was saying is, so when you're in that rest and recover system, you're producing and building your proteins that your body needs. You're replicating those cells. But whenever you're in a stressful situation, you're not able to do that well. So then you have all of these proteins that just don't work tip top, shape. And so your immune system's not working that way as well. So you're just not at the top of your game to begin with. But and with kids too, they're in this constant situation where they're going from game practice, dance recital, all of those things.
Pressure for the test and competition and making
They
the
got to make the
team
grade.
and
They got to make the
competing with their brothers and sisters and
they got to go
all
to
of
the
it.
summer camp, all of it. And so, and it's stressful for the parents. But here's the deal. If you don't do it, then you're stressed out that your kid's going to fall behind or they're not going to be included. And so you just add on another thing and add on another thing and add on another thing. And before you know it, we have a society that does not stop.
Yep.
It doesn't stop.
And that's real. I'm glad it's going in this direction because number one is to identify the problem, to identify why this is such a big deal. And I think that is something that's been covered is the reason that it is such a big deal is because people are not in a healthy state. Like we're just not, it's not just our school system and our healthcare system and this has been coming. It's just that perfect storm.
Right. And if you look at, who's getting severely ill and you look at 40% are diabetes and a majority are hypertensive, why do they have high diabetes? Why are they hypertensive?
Yeah.
And why are they the ones that are getting the most ill?
Well, it's kind of like hating cancer, right? There's this, we have a big sign here on the interstate, like how, cancer is a bitch or whatever, or like hating cancer. And it's like, cancer is not the problem. Corona is not the problem. They are circumstances. It's like we will not live forever. We know that. And I know that's harsh to hear, but we will not live forever. But what are we doing with the quality of our life? Like, how are we living? What choices are we making on the daily? How present are we? How attentive are we? And are we like unraveling and unpacking the stories like of the conditioning, social conditioning, generational patterns, like all of the things that have been handed down out of scarcity, out of fear, out of just like warning us for worst case scenarios, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like we've set our system up to be afraid.
Right. And we're already preparing to see if there's a second wave or is this going to be seasonal. Right. And then, there's so many people are worried about having to get immunizations and they don't want to get immunizations. And so there's another thing after the other thing. And I think the key takeaway is that you could die today. If you look at all the deaths from motor vehicle accidents, if you look at all the deaths from suicide, you and I are working on a coalition for our parish for the high rate of suicide and opioid addiction and overdose. Like those are all real problems too, and they have not stopped because of coronavirus. But what happens is whenever you get everyone saying the same thing at one time, it just creates this massive ball of energy and everyone starts to pay attention. And the world just stopped all at once.
Which in a beautiful way, let's pay attention to how we've set ourselves up for this position. Let's talk about diabetes. Let's talk about depression and loneliness. And let's talk about like our eating, the things that led us up to this point, not just like Corona is getting all of the attention.
Mhm.
And, our suicide rate is 28%, guys. That's really high. 28%. Like, that's the big part of the coalition is we don't know how to feel our emotions. We don't know how to deal with discomfort. We don't know how to deal with isolation and loneliness, because we don't know how to share. We don't know how to express. And the same thing is happening right now with all of this fear. We're so used to living in this state of crisis. Like, it's like the norm. They don't even you don't even notice that your body is in this stress because it's that way all of the time.
Right.
And now we don't have the exterior stress. So guess what we've done?
And I
We've
think,
kept
and
it going
so
interiorly.
one of the mitigation strategies, of course, was, social distancing and isolation. And it's like, oh gosh, that's just going to create even more stress on the body. But I think, a lot of people were probably living the way I was living before. And the physical isolation was probably no different because you were always surrounded by so many people, but yet you were emotionally unavailable or isolated
Right.
from those people to begin with. So hopefully a lot of people see that, and take this time that knowing that people are home and they're not too busy, reach out to someone that you love that you haven't talked to forever. They want you to. They're not going to ask you, why haven't you talked to me in 10 years? They will be grateful, and it's going to just really benefit the two of you. So I highly, recommend that. Another thing that can come out of this is, the United States is looking at our pharmaceutical industry, and we get so many medications from China. And ever since I became a clinical pharmacist in 2006, there was so many shortages. There's always medications on back order. We never have enough. A lot of critical medications. We've had to use, FDA will extend the expiration date on a lot of emergency medications because we just can't get. And a lot of it is made in China. So we need to bring all of that back. And once they do that, that'll create jobs. So there are going to be jobs. They're going to be jobs. It's going to, everything's going to evolve. Yeah. But we need to just make sure that everybody's mental state evolves as well and doesn't go backwards.
Yeah. I think the thing that we can talk about and we can share that's most important, like something that's actually tangible, is the emotional state and the mental health. Like, start talking about those things are something you can do right now at home in presence with your family. And I want to really give some takeaways of that. And also just like, what are the benefits of this, even economically is like I'm saying about, we're kind of ahead of the game because we've already lost, like I'm on this main highway and I think it's myself, the CPA and the lumberyard. Like it's pretty much down to, and the food at the end of the road, down to all the other businesses are not. So we've had this big hit already. And I see on the other side, it's so much better. Like, because I was able to I really had to go into my mind and create something new and different, something that was more convenient, something that was more affordable, something that was more useful, right? More valuable. And so we have opportunity for businesses to reinvent themselves. Just because they don't make it through this physical crisis, doesn't mean that they won't be able, maybe it was time to remodel it per se, right? There was something in it that it wasn't able to hold up, or it wasn't, whether it was essential or it was barely holding on to start off with. It's kind of like I'm saying with the marriage that was barely holding on. It's like we just by habit or by guilt or whatever reason, just kind of keep it going. And this is an opportunity to rewrite, just like when it's not working for us personally, right? We get to rewrite our story. We're like holding on to those old stories, the generational patterns, the social conditioning wasn't working anymore. We had to lose the old identity to become the newer version. That's where we are today, right? What you were saying earlier, it's like we don't live that busy life anymore. We're more present with our family. We're more present where our businesses are different. Our eating is different. The way we move our body, the way we understand mental, emotional, spirituality is different. So the whole entire world has the opportunity to experience this integrative approach.
Right, that's so true. And, there are so many brick and mortar buildings that were holding on to, you could see they hardly had any traffic. And, the commerce had moved online and they were just holding on and holding on and holding on. And this is finally going to be the thing to say that, you can't hold on anymore. So it feels bad. Breaking away. But then once you move into what, your purpose is and start learning and evolving, that it feels amazing, because we as human beings are meant to evolve. We're meant to grow and gain knowledge and move forward that way. It's just very stimulating to us we're creative beings. We're supposed to be
Let's
always creating.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about how can we help our audience through the discomfort, because it's that barely holding on, and then there is on the other side of that liberation. But in the middle is this scary stuff. And that's what I call it like the Jumanji bridge. I think on the next podcast episode, I talk about this. It's like, we're just kind of dangling. We're like, our brain can't go back to like figure this out, and we can't go forward. And it's like, it's the wisdom of no escape. We're just here when things fall apart. Like, we're in that space. So what can we give them for a takeaway of like how to deal with the discomfort of the unknown, how to deal with the grief, because the collective grief that we are all feeling it's coming from all of us. Like, we're connected on all levels. And whether we have it together and we managing our minds and our emotions, we are still feeling it. We just know how to experience it in a different way. How can we share something, like that with the audience, to say like, listen, what you're feeling is not necessarily yours. It's something that we're all feeling. And this not knowing is actually just your brain freaking out because it never knew anyway. It just thought it knew. It just had some
just
history.
thinks it's new. It predicts its future by its past.
Yeah.
And so the bad thing about that is if you have not experienced it in the past, your brain cannot predict it. So of course, we all want to create something new and exciting and something that no one has experienced and everyone's going to love it. But then, if you're looking in the past, it doesn't make sense because it hasn't been created already. So you have to step out into the fear and the unknown. And so I think, just sharing that the first thing is to have a desire. So sometimes you can have desire even though your head is spinning and you're kind of like, still in a whirlwind, and you just have that flutter, that excitement, and just note that. And, just know that what you're going to create not necessarily is going to be the thing. So just start creating, just start where you are, have an idea and explore it. And know that if you have a desire, you have everything within you to move forward with that.
What's a couple of questions that they can ask themselves to identify? Because so many people are just not even aware that is even an option, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been the norm to do what someone else said or to do whatever.
Right. So I can just give my advice of what I did at the beginning because I wasn't really sure, where I wanted to start. And it's, look to see what you're good at, first of all. What are you good at? And a lot of times it's stuff that you take for granted and you think that everyone is good at the same thing, or it's something that comes easy to you and you think it comes easy to everyone. Also, ask yourself, what do people call me for? So like I have an uncle who anytime our car breaks, like we're going to call him. We have that uncle that anytime our car breaks, we're going to call him. Maybe you are someone who anytime anybody wants to go on a cruise, they call you, or if they go on Disney, they call you. So maybe travel is something that you're good at and you have knowledge already. So just kind of like taking a, inner survey at what am I good at? What am I interested? What excites me?
Like if you were to start a blog, what would you talk about? That's so familiar that you would have 30 days, 30 blogs lined up. That would come super easy. Like, because maybe it's sewing, maybe it's pets, maybe it's
what could you, if someone picked up the phone and called you, what could you talk about and be excited about for 2 or 3 minutes straight and just go on and on and give all types of advice? What can you, you wouldn't have to come on in here and like research it and create an outline. Like you could just say, no, this is, how you raise amazing kids to get good grades, or, this is how you crochet and you make all these cool things with it. Like, what can you just talk about? And you feel like you're in no time, no space, right? So you feel like you're in the flow. You feel like time goes by fast when you're thinking about it or talking about it, just like in play. And what is that?
Even feeling that, and for you who are on the call, you're welcome to put something in the Q&A here if you have questions, or in the chat box. But just saying that, because we're human beings who are here to have an experience. We're here to explore, to express, to create, right? We're here to contribute.
Mhm.
And so if you put yourself in how can I serve, what comes up for you, and think about serving someone and how does that feel? Because that's a way to tap into a different sort of energy. Instead of the brain saying what has gone wrong, it's now looking for what can I do differently? How can I serve? How can I create better feelings in my body? What would make me feel alive? What would be fun, flowy, ease? And notice
Right.
just how it moves and changes the way you feel in your body. That's the experience we want to share with you. Give it a
Right.
moment.
And what you enjoy doing is what you'll be good at. And if you love what you're doing, but also if you're helping other people, that's the key. If you can love what you're doing and serving a large amount of people. And I've seen a lot of businesses pivot. So I've seen a lot of boutiques or sewing businesses, start to sew masks, and they started sharing masks, and then they started selling masks. And, the people that just have that determination, they're pivoting. There's businesses that were brick and mortar, they're going online, they're having to learn marketing and all these things. But the great thing about it is there's a community for everything.
It's true. One of my questions is, what does this have to offer me? Like, what is life doing for me in this moment? Like, how is life serving us? How is this circumstance serving us? And really, all you have to do is so cool, but you just have to give your brain a job. It's here to serve you. The problem is we have so many thoughts and so many fears and so much information poured inside of our head that we can't get to our processor, which is our problem solver. That's your brain's job. It's to problem solve. It's like, hey, give me something to do. It's like a little puppy waiting to like go catch the bone. It's like, hey, just tell me what to do. I want to solve problems for you. But we're in the habit of this old thinking and have all of these thoughts. So it's like it's like looking at your desk and it's just got files all over the desk and you can't use the desk for what it's meant for. And so it's the same thing with your brain. It's like you just have to tell it, like, we need to solve this problem. What can we do different? How can we like monetize our gift? What is something that I can offer? How can I change the trajectory of my business? How was I serving before? And how can I do it more conveniently? What is something else I was offering that I can do a little bit different? What is like, I promise you guys, your brain is so amazing. It's got like all of these little thought babies. And then you just like get to work on that and you just grow it and grow it and grow it and grow the feeling sensation. And you will attract your tribe. You will attract your people. This is such a beautiful opportunity. It's an opportunity of change. It's an opportunity of allowing the systems to break. Like I'm thinking of a crumbled building that just like finally the bricks just come down. And then you have this open space. That's the opportunity that we have here. If we choose to focus on that, the thing is, your brain will only be able to do one thing at a time. Where are you directing it? Are you asking it to look at all of those scary statistics and watching the news, or what, are you asking it to look for the worst case scenario, or are you asking it to look for the best case scenario? Do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, that's pretty much, the main thing is take the fear and give it a purpose and support yourself. What can I do? And just really start to become aware and present so that you can be aware and find it in your body. And for me, I ask myself, if I am having like a stressful situation and I feel unnerved, just start to notice where you feel that in the body. So like for me, it's in my jaw. And so I know that if I'm subconscious and just kind of like on auto drive but then my jaw starts to tense up, that's not natural. So I pay attention to that, and that'll get my attention and get me out. And then I just ask my question, what are my thoughts? Just try to look in and see. And I'm like, okay, this triggered me because so-and-so said this, or, I've been watching way too much news and they're like so sensational, let me just go and read my news whenever I'm in a good place, or I can ask my friends about the statistics. And so just being present and aware that way. And then using that, using any fear and stress and to really to make a change.
To unpack what's creating it, right? To have the awareness. How would
Have the
you, so when you say
awareness.
your jaw is tight and you have the awareness that it's tight, could you take us through the little process that you just said? Like, how do you inquire? How do you question for someone who's never done this before?
Yeah, so I basically, so what's gotten me to slow down to be aware, first of all, is a morning routine. It's doing a meditation, nearly every day, and starting to breathe, have breath work so that I'm taking deep breaths, exhaling. I'm noticing throughout the day if I'm holding my breath or if I'm breathing fast, where is that coming from? That's not a rested state. And so just, if I feel it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm stressed. What is causing me to be stressed? Because I'm not thinking, I tell myself I'm not thinking any stressful thoughts. So why am I stressed? And so then it makes me take a deeper look. What's happening in my circumstances? What's going on in my environment? Well, there may have been a nurse or a doctor that, we had a conversation last week that is reminding me of that. And it all goes back to like the caveman days, and it could go back to your childhood. It could go back to, your mean Aunt Sally. Maybe you stepped on her toe and she made this face, and then you got scared because she yelled at you, and then you had this emotion, which was a chemical response in your brain telling you need to fight or flight. And Aunt Sally wasn't going to harm you, but you had this chemical release and you had this emotion, and it imprints in you. And then whenever you're at work and you see someone and they come at you and they have that same face that Aunt Sally was making, and your body's like ready to fight or flight. It's like, there it goes, you have to be ready. My kids would trigger me like this a lot. So it would remind me of whenever I was a kid growing up there was 7 of us, and it was kind of crazy and loud sometimes, and sometimes there was a lot of yelling. And if the yelling in my current household began, then it would take me back to then. I still had that emotional imprint.
Right.
And so just take a look at your environment, what's going on, and just scan. Your brain is great at scanning. And then you just inquire, how could this be, affecting me? And then I always come back to this, and it always helps me. I just always ask myself these 2 questions. Am I safe? Am I okay? And for the majority of us, the answers are going to be yes in the present moment. So regardless that there's, coronavirus outside, or what might be pending and coming and, doomed to happen in this moment, I can answer the question, I am safe.
Right here, right now, in this moment.
I am okay. Everyone's alive that I love. In my immediate family, you could say you have a job, or you could say you're able to stay home and see about your kids. Find purpose in the moment that you're in. And there's always something to be gratitude. There's always someone who has it worse than you. You could always, instead of looking on Instagram and Facebook on who's, making the best fort, or who has the cutest homeschooling decor and all the crayons and all the projects. And I don't want to, say that that's a bad thing. I think it's amazing that so many people are creating these things, because for them, it's therapeutic. It takes them out of that fear mode they're creating. Right. But when you're looking in, note what it's making you feel in yourself.
Well, it's the 2 reasons why we suffer, right? It's always going to come back. If we're feeling that, it's because we're judging and comparing.
Right. And you're comparing your situation to someone else's. But instead of looking at that, and for me, like, do what I do. You may need to snooze those people for 30 days until the coronavirus is over, because, that's just not going to happen. Or maybe it'll inspire you to go and make it happen. But,
or
I'm
it'll
still
inspire
working.
you to go in and do your work, right? It's like, oh, I have an emotional signature here.
Maybe I need
I
to
have
go work
nothing
on
else
that.
to do. This is a great opportunity to unpack the story. And we come into presence, we unpack the story, we navigate around it, right? And then we create the newer version. So
right. And that's the work that we're sharing with people. And, we are showing people their triggers, showing them their old stories. But if it's just for someone who hasn't been, introduced to this work just yet, then that might just tell you need to snooze someone for 30 days, and you need to compare yourself to the people that you have it better than, because those situations are there as well. Some people don't have a house. There's tornadoes, could
Are
you
you saying
imagine
just to come into gratitude and
come into
appreciation is
gratitude
by
in the
taking yourself
moment?
to,
So
yeah.
to come into the moment, what can you do now?
I love to narrow things down to facts. I wish the media would just come on and just say facts. Like it.
But facts
Can you
don't
imagine?
sell.
I know facts don't sell. You're right. And facts don't
sell.
necessarily give that, they're neutral, right? So they don't give that charge that we're so addicted to.
Yes, and that's exactly it. Just like social media, or the media on your news, like they have a business, and the more that you come back, they're making money. And so they know how your brain works more than you know how your brain works.
For sure.
And they have you coming back. And I guarantee you they are loving that their ratings are sky high.
Well, it's surely helping the commercial world, right?
The commercial world,
everybody's glued to it.
And
so it's a perfect opportunity to advertise your stuff.
Right. So then you have the commercials that come on and tell you everything that you're lacking and that you need in your life. And so as I do this work more and more and more, I just learn every day. And what I'm beginning to learn in this moment is that the materialism that society faces right now, a lot of it has come to being in a space where we're so self-aware, like of our physical body. We're so aware of how we look, how we're shaped, what we own, what our status is, all of those things. And every time there's a commercial and we need that and we need that and we need that, and it needs to be the same as the other or better, it's all from not being separated from your body, time, and space. And so what I mean by that is when we're all energy, we're made up the majority of energy. Except when you are focused on your body, when you are focused on those material things, when you're focused on the past or focused on the future, you actually become more materialistic. You become more matter than mind and energy. And what we strive for, but as human beings, we strive to be connected energetically with other people. And so during the social distancing, I can feel your energy. And if you get on the phone with someone, you could feel their energy, and you don't even have to be on the phone. You could feel energy.
Yeah, you call them
if you're in touch with your own energy. And when you're in tune with love and light and source, and whatever you call that, God, universe, spirit, whatever that is. So there's the mind, the body, the spirit. When you're in tap with that, in tune with that, you are no longer isolated. You're no longer social distanced. We're all connected on a bigger level. And I think that's what's going to be the new norm. I think that's what's going to call everybody in. I think that's what the evolution is going to be.
That's the living your life's legacy as an integrated being on all levels in your natural essence. And that's the end of the book.
It's all about integrative. Integrate to your life. And for us to show up and start contributing, like you said, like my daughter, she's 13. No, she's 14. And she's not worried about coronavirus. She's worried about global warming. And like I was just having a conversation with her, I saw someone had posted that you could now see the Himalayas for the first time in 30 years, the mountains, like the clouds, the smoke has finally like cleared enough of pollution. Yeah. And then my daughter said, yes, she saw that in Los Angeles for the first time. You could see the stars at night, which, I've never been in Los Angeles, but gosh, that was one of my favorite things to do as a child, was to look up in the stars at night. I couldn't imagine not having that. Mm-hmm. And so
I live in open land, so for sure I'm stargazing every night.
I know, right? But like you said, like it's got to heal itself, and we contribute. We're part of it, and it's all equilibrium. It's homeostasis. Just as we have equilibrium in our body, the earth has equilibrium, the planets have equilibrium. And, who's to say that this isn't some way of planet
Bringing it all
Earth
together.
bringing it all together,
Bringing it all together.
making us stop. And
yeah, if we're out of the fear, where the question is like, I posted this today, like, what if this is the new norm? What would you do differently? And how could you begin it today? And I mean, I had some mad people, like, it was like, it's got to end and we can't survive like this. Like, and I was just like, whoa.
yeah.
Like, what if we're able to create like something new? What if we're able to like, oh my God, like I see so much potential and possibility that this is where the kind of guilt comes in, is when I see the desperation and the fear and that, there's this kind of accusational stuff that my heart kind of melts for it. And I'm like, I can feel the fear. I can see the fear and I don't feel it. Then for a moment, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not being arrogant here. I don't think I am. I just think I trust life. Like, I just truly trust that we're going to experience what we need to experience. We signed up to be here in this time and space. Like, there is a lot of stuff shifting here. We have so much opportunity and we can tap into all of this potentiality that's within ourselves that has not been tapped into.
Right. We have so much untapped potential. So much.
There was just so much conditioning. And now all of these systems going, we're like very limiting with the conditioning right now. You're basically redesigning your home life, redesigning your career, taking a really good hard look at your health and at your finances. Like, because health is all the way around: mental, emotional, financial, occupation, intellectual, like how we show up and serve, how we are in community and relationship with ourselves, with others, with our money, like all of it. That is like, we've been called to integrate that together. So I see we're really running like, and so I wanted to like give you the opportunity. If you have a takeaway for these guys, I'm going to stop the live stream on YouTube. And so those who are here, if you want to have a conversation about this, if you want to ask questions, we're going to take the recording off. But is there anything that you want to share? Tell them where to find you. What is it that you do? What are you offering? We're in the More Than Mindset group. You can find any of the coaches there, but Danielle, you have your own group and page going on, and we'll put all that in the show notes below, but I'm just going to let you give them a takeaway.
Okay. So so Danielle Perrodin, you can find me on all social media platforms. Dr. Danielle Perrodin on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I'm a doctorate of pharmacy. So I have a group. It's Style Your Mind and Body. So I am personal style and image consultant as well. I'm still practicing pharmacy, starting to begin to lean more into the functional medicine, because I truly believe it's all about finding the root cause and not just treating the symptom. So just like all of these diabetics, really, we've just been diagnosing them with diabetes and, giving them sugar pills, lower their sugar, but we're not going to look and see, what is the cause of those things and really fixing the problem before it gets to all these symptoms. You can find me, like I said, on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm an integrative life coach. So I do personal coaching one-on-one, and I would love for anyone just to reach out to me if you'd like.
Alrighty. And we have I don't know what our podcast episode is, but you'll be finding that on here soon. Do you remember the number? What episode?
I do not know. I don't have that
we probably should have known that before. But where Danielle and I
just post it in the bottom
on the podcast. Yeah. All right. So let me go ahead and stop this on YouTube. Thank you guys for joining. Hit the little bell and subscribe. We have like a huge lineup coming in, all kind of great conversations, just about the integrative life in general and how we really doing a lot of focus on mental, emotional, spiritual, and service. We're like bridging those together, which is a beautiful thing. Stop live.